What's up, guys? My name is Chico Moya and welcome to my channel. So, Zelenskyy came to Finland. I knew because my bus didn't arrive when I was trying to get to work. But on a more serious note, the contrast between his meeting with President Stubb and the one with Donald Trump was night and day. I even shared this image on social media. It perfectly highlights the difference. The war in Ukraine is not just a regional conflict. It's a turning point for the world. How it ends will shape the future of NATO, the EU, and the entire geopolitical order. Is America still the leader of the free world? What will become of its global influence? Will the hegemony of the US and Europe evolve or collapse? So it's a big thing. Before the US elections, it felt like something was shifting. Dictators were growing bolder. Terrorism was being applauded or at least defended across parts of the world. The world needed leadership, real leadership. Joe Biden was old and honestly, things felt kind of grim. Then Kamala Harris stepped up to run against Trump. But the problem with Harris was that she never said anything of substance or demonstrated that she knew anything about, well, anything. The Democratic Party was lost in identity politics and seemed to focus on appeasing the radical elements of its base instead of listening to the people. Trump, on the other hand, was a wild card, but confident. He promised to remove identity politics from the government. He said what many considered basic, reasonable things like, let's protect women's sports. And on Ukraine, he made bold promises like,
I would tell Putin, gotta settle. I would tell Zelenskyy, you gotta settle. I would tell one, you're gonna load up with money. I'd tell the other, you're not gonna get any money. I would get a settlement in 24 hours.
Now, sure, most of us knew he was either lying or wildly exaggerating, but he was lying with confidence. And to many Americans, that was more appealing than the alternative. Even some of us outside the US, myself included, were cautiously optimistic. Here was someone, imperfect as he may be, who might just be able to lead the world into a better future if he played his cards right. Boy, was I wrong. Maybe I was naive, but I didn't expect Donald Trump to come across as surprisingly sympathetic to Russia, not just in words, but in actions, and especially the way he speaks about Putin versus how he speaks about Ukraine and Zelenskyy. If you live in Europe, you understand how important the war in Ukraine is, especially for countries quite close to it, like Finland. The Oval Office meeting between Trump's administration and President Zelenskyy sent shockwaves across the world. It changed my view of America forever. It also made us wonder, whose side is America on? A country that prides itself in standing against dictators, acting in a way that stood opposed to that. There had already been red flags, if I'm honest. Trump had called Zelenskyy a dictator, something truly absurd considering Ukraine is literally defending itself from an actual dictator. It felt incredibly wrong. We all saw the tweet. It was disheartening, but I tried to brush it off as Trump just being Trump. Then came the meeting. It started off relatively calm, and despite shade being thrown at Zelenskyy for not wearing a suit,
he's all dressed up today.
Condescending, unnecessary, yes. But I brushed past it again, hoping the actual conversation would be productive. Boy, was I wrong. Again.
Thanks.
You haven't
in
been
this
allowed.
cabinet.
You
and
haven't
not
been
only
allowed.
in this cabinet.
We gave you through
I
this
said,
stupid
thank
president $350 billion.
You voted
we gave
for
you
your
military
president.
equipment,
You
and you
voted
men
for
are
your
brave,
president.
but they had to use our military.
Yes. What about West?
If you didn't have
You
our
invited
military
me.
equipment,
You invited
if
me
you
to
didn't
speak.
have our military equipment,
The discussion revolved around a potential mineral deal between the US and Ukraine. I don't know the full details, but in simple terms, America stood to make a lot of money by mining resources in Ukraine. Trump claimed it would be a way for Ukraine to pay back the millions or billions America has spent, repeating the wildly inaccurate number of 350 billion, a number that is provably false. But here's the real kicker. There were no security guarantees in the deal. Security was simply inferred, not promised. And Ukraine had good reason to be skeptical because back in 2022, American companies were already operating in Ukraine when Russia invaded, and that didn't function as a deterrent to Russia. They simply didn't care. Just a quick pause in the video. If you are enjoying this, give me a like and subscribe to the channel.
What are you saying?
She's asking, what if Russia breaks the ceasefire?
What if anything? What if a bomb drops on your head right now? Okay? What if they broke it? I don't know. They broke it with Biden because Biden, they didn't respect him. They didn't respect Obama. They respect me.
Let's rewind a bit. Ukraine, as part of the former Soviet Union, once had nuclear weapons. In 1994, it gave them up in exchange for a handshake deal of sorts between the US, the UK, and Russia. It promised Ukraine its sovereignty. This agreement, known as the Budapest Memorandum, was designed to make the world safer by reducing nuclear weapons while protecting Ukraine's sovereignty, because we don't want too many countries to have nuclear weapons out there. So everything was peachy. But in 2014, Russia reached out its hand and simply took Crimea, claimed it, annexed it. And in 2022, as the world knows and everyone knows, Russia launched a full-scale invasion. This is the context Ukraine lives in today. So during the meeting, JD Vance jumped in and said, now is the time for diplomacy, as if diplomacy hasn't been attempted again and again and again, and as if both sides are equal aggressors in the war, as if Ukraine is to blame for defending itself. That's why Zelenskyy asked the question that shattered the room. What kind of agreement can we make with Russia, with Putin? We want peace. We want to be part of the Western world. This is their war, not ours. They break every single agreement they make. So what kind of ceasefire without real security could ever hold?
Yes, but after that, he broken this ceasefire. He killed our people and he didn't exchange prisoners. We signed the exchange of prisoners, but he didn't do it. What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the president for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Count once.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems bringing people into your military? And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems, even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless. God bless. You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what.
And that, my friends, is when everything went crazy. Ukraine wants lasting peace, a peace that will outlive Donald Trump. Zelenskyy's frustrations, his emotion is something much of Europe shares, because right now, the so-called leader of the free world is willing to condemn everyone except the actual aggressor. Trump even suggested that Ukraine started the war.
But today I heard, oh, well, we weren't invited. Well, you've been there for 3 years. You should have ended it 3 years. You should have never started it. You could have made a deal.
Absolute insanity. When that meeting ended, I had a pit in my stomach. I won't lie to you. Now look, Europe isn't off the hook here. For too long, it has relied too heavily on the US for defense, security, and leadership. This old continent has a choice to make. It can stop complaining and start leading. It can invest, innovate, and rise again if it truly wants to. Or it can remain dependent and accept the disrespect being shown to it. But I think, and I'm hopeful, that things are changing. That said, that Oval Office meeting was a disgusting stain on America's image as the leader of the free world, as the leader of the Western world. Because today, the US appears to be hard on the weak and soft on the strong. Putin literally turned down Trump's 30-day ceasefire plan, basically slapping it aside, and yet Trump still treats Russia with kid gloves. There is something deeply broken in this moral compass. The aggressor is pampered. The aggressed is blamed. It's really hard to watch. There's an injustice about it that I can't express. So when Zelenskyy came to Finland and was treated with honor, it said something powerful about who we are. President Stubb, poised and articulate and gracious as ever, was a stark contrast to everything we witnessed in the Oval Office.
From your side, your experience, because I'm younger, may you have more experience. But you look younger.
Finland, because of its history with Russia, understands Ukraine's position better than most. It understands Russian propaganda. It understands the danger of appeasement. It understands what it would mean for the world if the US walked away from its global responsibilities.
For me, the choice is very simple. We either have a multilateral world with rules and strong international institutions and an order, or we have a multipolar world which is disorderly and based on transactions and deals. And I say this as my final point. This is not only about the war in Ukraine, but the war of aggression put forward by Russia is going to change the world order. And I think all of us have agency in this. We are the ones who decide the direction in which the world is going to go. And that's why I think that these weeks, these coming months are so important. If we don't end up with a just and lasting peace in Ukraine, then we will end up in a very disorderly and transactional world.
The president is absolutely right. After World War II, America helped build a world where dictators couldn't just grab territory whenever they felt like it. Despite its flaws, America made the world trade safer. It brought some stability. People trusted its word. If that trust is gone, what happens next? Why wouldn't every country in the world start pursuing nuclear weapons again? Would that make the world safer? I don't think so. That's why now I put my hope in Europe. It has to rise up, not just to protect Ukraine, but to protect the values we all say we believe in. I know this video is a little bit different to the ones I usually post, so let me know what you think, and until next time, ciao.